Walking these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true, St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names, pushing through the night.
Well, welcome to our 75th anniversary conversations. I'm here with Joe and Matt Chambers, father and son, talking about their history here in the church and some of the background that they've experienced. And so I'll start off with just asking a basic question: How did you guys join the church? What brought you here?
Came here in actually when I was dating my wife Margot. She lived in Battle Creek. And so I used to drive up to her house, and they let me spend the night. So I'd go like on a Friday night or Saturday and spend the night. And we always went. She was raised Catholic, so we always went to mass together. So going to church was just always an important part of our lives. And so when we were first married, we went to the Catholic church down at St. Paul's down on Branson Street. And then I think that was around 1969, 1970. And then we got connected with the Full Gospel group in Marion through a couple of people here at the church. As you know, the charismatic thing was going on at St. James, and they invited us. And really, we kind of got involved and I loved the Mass, and I loved the formality of the Mass and all. But there was just something missing, I think, for both of us. And as we got more involved with the Full Gospel activity and other Christians and other Christian activities, we realized we were looking for something more. We wanted Bible study. We wanted, Christian fellowship with other people. And so we kind of realized at that point that the Catholic Church was probably not going to be where we wanted to be for years. So we thought, let's find a church. So we started visiting churches, and I think we probably visited maybe a dozen churches around the area over about a year or so. We lived over around the corner here on Chapel Pike, just before you got to Highway 15, and I knew this church was over here, but I think I even told you one time, I always had an impression of the Lutheran Church was kind of like the Mennonite or Amish. I always had an image of the Smith Brothers cough drop guys, that they wore hats and black suits, and I thought, that'd be the last place we want to visit. But we came. And Pastor Feeney was preaching and fell in love with the church. I mean, just the message of the gospel of Christ and obviously the formality that we're looking for just seemed to be a great fit for both of us. And so we never looked back over our shoulders. We came to St. James at one time, and that was 1971. Oh, okay. So that was kind of about 3 years after they had come out here to this place. So that's what brought me to St. James. Okay.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Matt?
My father and my mom brought me here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, he was here about from the get-go, from birth.
Now, what year were you baptized in here?
76.
76? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what roles have you played? What things have you done around here?
Janitor. And then Board of Properties.
Oh, okay.
I've done a lot of different things during the church, whatever needed to be done. I think probably what most of us would say. I've been on the Board of Christian Education back years ago, and involved with the VBS program many years, taught Sunday school. We had Board of Lay Ministers, we were called back before we became elders, so I was on the Board of Lay Ministers. And then an elder, and it was probably about 19 76, 77, I got involved in that. So been on with that for a number of years. Been actively involved with, the scheduling, the acolytes
Right.
and the servers. And I'm a server on a Sunday morning. So a lot of different areas that I've ministered with.
Sure. Now, why did they change the name from lay ministers to elders? Do you know?
I really don't know. I think that we just kind of made the decision, and I don't
okay.
recall why. That was maybe it just sounded more.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious because where I've been, I've had elders. I've also had lay ministers. It's
Okay.
kind of a interchangeable term, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just curious.
But we did go from boards to ministry teams.
Oh, okay.
Changing the name of the ministry teams to ministry. So when we say the elder ministry team is no longer the board of elders, it's the elder ministry team, or Christian education is now the Christian ministry team
Oh,
here at
okay.
the church. So we kind of thought that had a better platform sounding.
Oh, okay. And you were probably in youth group and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I was with did a lot of things because my sister was in youth, so they were in with the youth when I was younger. So then I just tagged along. I was like one of the
Oh,
tag along kids, and then when I got into youth group, then we did a bunch of youth gatherings and stuff
Oh,
like
okay.
that. So
cool. Did you go to any of the youth gatherings or the
yes,
national?
yeah, I went to 2 of them.
Oh, okay.
So because I was a freshman.
Oh,
And then we went to 1, and then when I was a senior, we went to, because I think they're every 4 years.
yeah. Jasmine had the same thing.
Yeah.
She was a freshman and a senior. Yeah, if you hit that the right year, you
Yeah.
can go twice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell them about your San Antonio and the Brazil
like-
and the Brazil thing.
Like, what was that? I think that was my freshman one, I think. We went to San Antonio, Texas, which that's always the go-to one.
Oh, sure.
Brazil had just won the World Cup
Oh,
that year. So I don't know if you knew this, I was born in Ecuador.
oh,
So
yeah.
I was still a big Brazil soccer fan, even though I couldn't play soccer, for my life. But so we went to the Riverwalk, and they had a place called Flag World.
Oh,
So I
okay.
bought a Brazilian flag for, since they won the World Cup. And I, had the pole and everything, and I drug it around with me all throughout the youth gathering. So these Brazilian guys came up to me and thought I spoke, was from Brazil.
Oh.
So they were starting to talk to me in Portuguese. Well, I don't know any Portuguese whatsoever. So I was just swinging that flag around. Then we exchanged shirts.
Oh,
He took my National Youth Gathering shirt from Indiana,
From
oh,
St. James.
and then I have his Brazilian shirt from Brazil.
oh, that's cool.
So
He said people kept coming up to him and saying, "Welcome to America," everywhere he went. So he said, all these girls were saying things. He said, I just started rolling with it. I thought it would be a good way to meet people, meet girls too.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. So are there people that have stood out in the time you've been here at St. James that made an impact on you in some way?
Paul Lang,
Oh,
yeah, Paul Lang was probably because he was I think when I first started college at Indiana Wesleyan, he was like my elder here that would
okay.
write me notes every so often saying we're praying for you and stuff like that. So
Oh,
Paul Lang and Delba, they were probably the most, and then obviously my parents,
yeah,
helped me
sure,
nurture me through where I am today.
sure.
So many. I mean, there's just been wonderful people throughout my life here at St. James. I go back to Pastor Feeney and of course Warren Groff, who came in as our minister of Christian education and music. We went on a lot of trips with Warren, with the youth, canoe trips and camping trips and different activities, and we were really close with Debbie and Warren. Of course, when Mark came, I was executive director at that time, so I had a lot of contact with him.
Oh, okay.
And he and Carol just so special to me and so special to so many people in our church. But I just had a really, and still do, have a wonderful relationship with Mark and with Carol. All the people, a lot of people maybe don't remember Pastor Heine. He was an interim when Mark left in whatever year he left, 211, somewhere thereabouts, 210, 211. We had Pastor Heine came as our interim.
Oh, okay.
And he lived in Fort Wayne. So he used to drive down on a Saturday night, and he spent the night at our house, usually on Saturday, probably for the first 2 or 3 months that he was here before he got an apartment at Turtle Creek. And he had a great sense of humor, and he really was an influence to me. I really think back on him and the years with him. In recent years, of course, Norm, Doug with him. I think a lot of people don't realize all that Doug does, but Doug and Gretchen have just been so special to me and to our church. Obviously, Ken and Sue Israel have just been bedrock to St. James through the years. So, a lot of people, hard to pick out certain ones, but those are the ones that kind of stand out in my mind.
Sure. So, do you have any? I'm sure you do, interesting stories or anecdotes or anything that do your time here at St. James?
Probably just like the youth group and stuff, the games we played. And, one of the funny things was when our confirmation, we had, we spoke from the pulpit, when we did, so we had to get up, my legs were shaking like a leaf, so I was glad to be up there, versus now they're down, closer to the front. And then Kyle Sample, he fainted when we were taking communion. So that was, one of those funny things that, because we were just sitting there, ready, my mom was always telling me how to take the communion, and then all of a sudden I look over and Kyle's passed out.
During his communion.
Yeah.
That was funny.
Yeah.
That's stressful.
Yeah.
I wasn't around during the early years when St. James was at the old Colonial Room down at the Spencer Hotel. But I know that they were down there around 1950, 51, somewhere thereabouts. Pastor Groudon had been designated to come to Marion. I think St. James was started back when several people, and we've kind of had a list of who the charter members were. I think they met in somebody's garage, and they decided, that they needed to get a church in Marion, and then they contacted Fort Wayne, and that's kind of how the church got going. So they started out down at the Colonial Room, and then eventually moved over to the Western Avenue church on Western Avenue.
Right.
And then obviously out here at St. James. So I came in after the church had been here for about 3 years into the church. So, my memories at church have been obviously just the different ministries that we've been involved in and the different activities taking place. I remember we had a lot of what we always called carry-ins. Grandma McClure's old ham loaf was just always a special thing. Everybody always looked forward to coming to the carry-in, Grandma McClure's carry-ins.
No, we call it, where I'm from, we call it potluck.
Yeah,
you
potluck.
Guys call them carry-ins. I know that was a difference in terminology.
It seemed like we had carry-ins all the time back in those days. Okay. I don't know, just an excuse to eat and obviously share some food together. I can remember it, and I was going to share with you, I think I mentioned the other day, when we did I kind of wrote down a couple of dates here. We actually retired 3 mortgages in our church.
Yeah, we talked about that.
In 1953, the mortgage on the church over on Western Avenue was retired.
Oh, okay.
And then the church people started looking in 63, 65, started thinking about moving somewhere. And that was when they decided to move out here on this property. And they sold that church in 1965 to the Church of the Brethren. Did that. And then in 1968, this church was completed and dedicated. The mortgage to this church was retired in 1985. So, it wasn't that long, 65 to 85.
Yeah, that was a question I had because I said, well, when the mortgage from 2017, was that both? And but you're the first person to answer that.
Yeah.
It was actually, this building was paid off in in 1985.
Well, I remember we had a burning, we had a thing, a little activity there at the church in the sanctuary. And I remember Dave Aaron talking about the latter one when they caught the cloth on fire.
Oh.
It didn't have that happen on this one, but there was like a little plate that we burned at. We formed a building committee. When I think of activities, I was chairman of the building committee for the addition. And we worked on that. We had a great committee that worked for several years, made a presentation to the congregation, and they turned us down.
Oh.
and it was just too much money we were looking at. And so I kind of was peeved off about that. I mean, we put a lot of time into that. We'd contacted St. Louis, the Lutheran Extension Fund. I think we had Larry Jung from Fort Wayne came down with the extension office. I mean, we had done a lot of work, a lot of planning, and talked with the architect, and we did a presentation to the congregation, and people said just too much money. So I just said, I'm done. I put all this time into this thing. Well, after I got over my hissy fit, I remember talking with Mark, and then we got going again, and then we obviously started back up again, and then we did finish up the new project with the addition. And we did that dedication in 1997.
Oh, of the new building?
Yeah, the new building, 1997. And that's the reason I brought this. There was a time capsule. If you look on here at 145, there was a time capsule, and it's got a listing of the items that are in the time capsule.
Oh, really?
And hopefully somebody that's watching will know where we put that thing, because for the life of me,
in the new building,
it's in the new building. I think when you walk into the gym, the first classroom on the right. Do you know?
No, it's not. It's before that. It's in that entryway.
You think it's by the
entryway, like where the trophies are at and stuff?
I hope you're right. Well, somebody will hopefully know that, because I thought it was in the classroom, in that first classroom inside the wall. So if it's in the trophy area, then
which is funny, because putting a time capsule, but nobody knows where it's at.
They've got a time capsule and it's lost in time. But there's a listing of all the items that were put into the time capsule. And
I was told there was a time
underneath the triangle.
Yeah, underneath 68. But then somebody said they searched at one point and couldn't find it, but maybe it's down there someplace. There's another one.
Somebody said underneath the 1968, which is out in the narthex, there was a time capsule put in there. But then a couple of years ago, when we did the retiling, and all of that was taken up, we looked in there and nobody could.
Too deep.
You know what? This sounds like a Discovery Channel show, trying to find the old time capsule.
If anybody knows where the original time capsule is, there aren't many that were around back in those days. But
that's funny.
Well, I should have asked my son a long time ago. He knew
exactly where
it was. Out. So yeah, a lot of activities. I just remember it's been a lot of the people and the different services and the activities, the carry-ins.
Yeah. Now, you guys you were part of the group that went down to New Orleans, right?
Yes.
What was that like?
That was a great experience. Matt was in college or in school, and so Tiffany went with me. Margot and I had just put our house up for sale.
Oh.
And so I went down. I think there were about 25, 30 of us, and we traveled. We traveled down to first place we went was down to where Mark had been pastor in Bogalusa, Louisiana.
Oh, okay.
And we stayed there at that facility, camped out there. We slept inside in the church, and went to church that day. But then the next day we drove on down and stayed there in the northern part of New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, it was just it was one of those you couldn't pay me to ever do, but because you're doing it as a service, you do it willingly.
Right.
Every day we did what's called mucking, and basically what that is, you just take a house and you strip it down to the skeleton, to the studs, drywall, furniture, everything had to come out. And so we ended up mucking 2 houses while we were there. Had to wear body suits. Back at that time, we looked like Ghostbusters, and we had the mask with the cylinders and the goggles and gloves. I mean, everything that was contaminated when you go into the house, you could see where the water line had been up, and it was just green and black mold almost to the ceiling in the area.
Plus, a lot of those houses, you don't know if they have asbestos.
Yeah.
It's being older in the
Well, and the
South,
intent is that they're going to come in and then spray them and clean them and then rebuild. I don't know if they ever did that or not. One, I think that they just decided that it was going to be contaminated to the point that it couldn't be done. But the other, I think the family was going to do. We had a couple of women in the first house that really were a blessing. They came and they made a big pot of
Jambalaya.
Jambalaya, and brought it out to us at our campground where we were staying, because we stayed in tents when we were there out at a church in the northern part. Metairie, I think is where it was. And they brought us a big pot of jambalaya that night. So it was a great experience, great time, and a great ministry involved.
Any other stories that you can think of?
I remember when we took the youth camping, I don't know, years ago, one of the trips that we took with the kids, we went to Sugar Creek. And we were going to canoe Sugar Creek.
Couldn't canoe.
And
it was all dried up.
And we got there, and the water was about 1.5 feet high. We ended up, you could canoe a little bit, but it was probably about every 30 feet. You had to get out of the canoe, drag the canoe, and it was just
I was younger because I don't even remember it, but like I said, I tag along because I mean, where am I going to go?
Right.
Yeah.
But it took us probably about 3 hours to canoe what was supposed to be about an hour trip. And we hadn't taken anything with us, nothing to drink. And it was hot and a miserable, miserable day. And I can remember Gary Zucker and I, when we got to the final run, we said, we'll go over and get the bus and bring it over to everybody. And I can remember we just dying of thirst. And we go over to where the bus was, and right across the street, there was a bar. And he and I looked at each other, and we thought, no, we can't. We got to get back to the kids. So we thought we got to go in and get something cold to drink. But we said, no, we got to go back and get the kids. And so, but I remember we had one member, I won't mention her name, she's no longer a member of our church, that refused, because we did primitive camping, she refused to use the pit toilet. She would not go to the bathroom all weekend.
Oh my goodness!
And we just teased the daylights out of her and her husband for years after that. If you want to go camping with such and such, make sure you don't go to primitive camping with her. That was a great memory. A lot of memories with that. We did concerts with the kids. Petra, I don't know if you remember that.
I remember Petra.
Leon Patella. I mean, there were a lot of that. We took the kids all kind of different places on different concerts back at that time.
Yeah, Petra was one of the, I mean, what little I know about contemporary Christian music, Petra was one of the first kind of contemporary Christian rock bands.
Yeah.
And I think I actually saw them in concert one time back in Idaho or wherever. But yeah, they were one of the very first. Couldn't understand a word they said.
But, it was cool singing. I remember one time we went to Chicago. Mark and Carol, when they came to Marion, we were really pretty close with them. And they used to come over a lot of the time for cookout. And we had a swimming pool, an above ground swimming pool, and they used to come over and go swimming. One time we went to Chicago, up to Margot and I and Matt and I, maybe Tiff, and I think your cousin Jeff went with us, and we went up and spent the night, saw a Chicago White Sox ball game. We came back home, and there were 2 cars in our driveway, and there was Mark and Phil, and they had gone back into the house, and behind the house we'll have a sunroom. And they were grilling out in the pool, just having a big old time. We heard all this noise and walked around back and thought, well, thanks so much, guys, for making yourself at home here. But that was a lot of fun. And obviously, we were happy that they were able to come.
That's funny. That's funny. So what changes have you seen happen throughout the years you've been in St. James? Significant things that are different?
So the services are probably a lot, they change on periodically throughout the, they're more contemporary or more liturgical,
Yeah.
Same thing. I obviously we've had counting the interims, I think 7 different pastors that we've been involved with. So, and each pastor has been unique, and each one has brought different gifts to the church, and has enhanced our ministry here at St. James. So, I think back on each one of the pastors that have been here and how much they've not just influenced my life, but they've made some changes within the church. We've gone from 1 to 2. We used to have just one service when we first started coming. I think it was at 10 o'clock or 10:30. And it was always kind of a high church liturgical. Pastor Feeney chanted and was kind of a high church kind of a guy, and so it was when Mark came was when we started thinking about going to a contemporary or a blended, and then we started going to the 2 services. Music used to have, of course, I'm go back to the old red and the blue hymnals, and even back in those days before even the one that we have now. But we had a little booklets that we used to sing songs with. I think it was called Songs You Like to Sing, or Praise Worship or something or other, and we would sing that. So we would have a little bit of different music back in those days. Of course, the new building addition has been a big change at St. James with all of the classrooms, and obviously the different ministries that have continued to grow.
Right. How has St. James impacted your faith walk?
I think I've maturing in my Christian walk, being involved in the Word, being involved in God's Word has meant everything to me. And as I've been at St. James, being in Bible study on a regular basis through the years, grown a lot in that area. I think certainly it's enhanced my understanding of fellowship with other believers, not just attending church, but being part of a body of Christ, and being in a relationship with other Christians has been a real enhancement to me, and certainly been impacted my faith, as I said, everybody has. Sometimes I just said at communion, and it's and you kind of watch fellow members commune, and they're just a feeling of love, and you just, there goes such and such, and there goes such and such, and I just kind of sit and watch people, and just praise God for my Christian family here at St. James, and how much they mean to me. Being involved with sheep pens, we started those back with when Mark was here.
Now, sheep pens are the elders.
The elder sheep pens. The elders do the sheep pens, and I've done that in my home on for several years, and still try to connect with sheep pen members. We had a cookout this fall, and then we're planning on having an eat out night here last month, but I had to have leg surgery, so we had to cancel that. So we'll get back on track with that as well.
Yeah, and you help lead the Thursday
men's Bible study. Yeah, I think between Jerry and Norm and I, we kind of rotate. Barry has taken kind of a turn at that too. So a lot of the men have, we all teach a little bit, but then we're also there together.
Now, how long have you been an elder?
I've been an elder probably since 1975, 70.
Oh, really?
Almost from the get-go. Pastor Feeney was the one that kind of started the Board of Lay Ministry. Well, he didn't start it; it existed. But there was always the Board of Lay Ministry, and I think I was asked to become involved in that probably after I'd been here about 4 or 5 years. So it might have been 75, 74, somewhere thereabouts. Maybe too long, but no. But I still feel it's a service that I do, and a servant's role of helping.
Sure. So what is your hope for St. James' future?
Just to keep growing, getting more young people in here to, make, minister to the community a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's important. That's something all churches struggle with today, but yeah, very much.
I hope we continue to be a church that supports we do a lot within our community and elsewhere. when you really think about St. James coming out here on Miller Avenue back in 1968, and of course they started that process probably in 65, 66, this was out in the sticks, and there wasn't anything out here. I mean, almost all of this was just countryside. And it was pretty visionary for the people. And I don't know the history on how this was selected, this property was selected, but you think about that, and you think about being over on Western Avenue, and most all of the churches were downtown or over in the, for them to come out this direction in the middle of farmland, it was a really visionary move for people, and it really ended up not only just pulling people from Marion, but a lot of people in the Oak Hill, the Sweetser, La Fountain, coming in this direction. So it really became a blessing of drawing people from a lot of different areas that got involved. So I hope we continue to be a visionary church in terms of thinking, where are we going as a church, and what ministries do we continue to to foster. I know years ago we sponsored a missionary family, and they came and visited the church a few times. So I'd be interested in maybe thinking about our church, maybe doing that again, sponsoring a missionary, maybe a Lutheran Bible translator, or we do a lot locally, but it wouldn't be that much to give some donation to support somebody in that area. Short-term mission opportunities. When I think of Katrina and other things that we've done, I think somebody was talking the other day about the Habitat. When we did the Habitat activity here at the church, I forget who that was.
Norm.
Yeah, it was Norm talking about that. We built. We had a lot of people. I mean, there were probably 75, 100 people involved. People came from the community as well as the church, and we laid out all of the structures outside and assembled things, and there's a lot of things that you can do. So I mean, I kind of think about short-term mission opportunities, not just here locally, but also maybe elsewhere for our congregation. We're getting older, so maybe that's more of a challenge. It was easier to do back when we were 40, in our 30s and 40s, but we should still have enough fire in us that we could think about some of those things and be involved with it.
Yeah, definitely. So there's some things I didn't ask you, or you wanted to share that I didn't bring up, or we didn't get to yet?
I don't have anything.
The only thing I could think of is, and maybe it's a silly question. Well, I don't think it's silly, but maybe it's an expected question. Why do you think God wanted St. James to be at Marion? And why does God want St. James to continue to exist? With all the churches that we have here, we have a purpose, and I think we have a unique theology, and that's what I think, when you asked me back what brought me to St. James, it was hearing the gospel and the message of God's grace that is so unique to us as Lutherans. It's in all churches, but I think it's really emphasized within our church that it's always God that reaches to us. It's always God that draws us to Him. He is the one that makes the path for reconciliation. Everything that we accomplish is not anything we do on our own. It's what God does for us, and that's been the unique message that I think that the LCMS church and other Lutheran churches probably promote. So you think, why does God want St. James to be here, and why does it want it to continue to be here? Because I think that's a message that people need to hear, and as we have those opportunities, and God draws people to us, and we have chances to reach out and bring people here, I think that's a message we continue to share.
Yeah, we've had a number of people come in who were Christians of a different denomination and that's just within the last few years. They've joined because of our theology, and because one person I heard described our theology that's described as passive salvation. In other words, we believe as Lutherans we don't do anything to earn it. It is totally a gift of God. And I don't think the other groups around us would necessarily totally reject that, but they always seem to add something to it.
Something you do. You got to do something to earn, or something to...
And they kind of mix that long gospel of, and we say, well, you're a Christian and now you do good works, but the two one's a product of the other, and we don't mix the two together. And I think also what I've heard is our liturgical structure is attractive to some who've been in churches where there wasn't any.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, we have, I think we're a little, as compared to a lot of other churches, especially as Protestants, as some people have called us, a little strange. You know, they come in and they see a guy wearing a robe, and a surgical structure, and they don't find that in other parts. And, you know, I always said, we don't need to apologize for that. We need to embrace that. We could almost have Portland, Oregon has this thing about keeping it weird, you know, which is, I'm not endorsing Portland, Oregon, because it is weird.
Is a strange.
But you know, maybe St. James's new theme is keeping it weird.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. But there's some people that are never going to be attracted to us because but the other people, I think, as they get tired and worn out with some of the other stuff. So I think we do have a purpose.
You know, you were, I think it was Norm that you were talking to, and the question came up, why did we name the preschool program?
Yeah.
I think that was Mark's idea. And I think the concern was that St. James, to a lot of people that don't know St. James, they think it's a Catholic church.
Right.
And I think that and he even approached the elders at one time about, and I don't know how serious he was, but he said, we ought to think about changing the name to Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. He said, because of the St. James, he said, a lot of people will never hold in our parking lot, will never come here because they think it's a Catholic church. And I think that was why they went with the name. I think the name Good Shepherd Preschool was an effort to put a vision out into the community, or at least a message out in the community. Right. It's a preschool, but it's not Catholic.
That makes sense. Because a lot of time, I mean, it used to be those were attractive names, but the saints, you know, people do associate that with Roman Catholicism or something very high church, and so more, and a lot of Missouri Synod Lutheran churches have changed their name to more of a name that people would be more welcoming, and just because of that. Church I was raised in was called Good Shepherd Lutheran Church.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
really.
It's interesting.
That's interesting.
So, but that makes sense.
I think that was the reason. Yeah. Not that we have anything against our Catholic brothers and sisters.
No. But there is a different expectation that some people. Yeah. I get that. Anything else?
No, thank you for the opportunity to.
Well, thank you both for coming in.
I tried.
Appreciate it.
Oh yeah, you did good. Well, we'll see you later on the week or next week with another edition. Peace out. Go ahead and turn your mic
Walking
off.
these streets, shadows fall, lost in a world, echoes call, searching for life, voices true. St. James Church in the heart of the blue. Glorify God, nurture all, share the gospel, hear the call. That is what we do at St. James, breaking chains, singing new names, pushing through the night, feeling small, seeking the answers stall, windows of gray stained with hue. Shines through.